What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Super Fantasy Bros podcast, which is part of course, the Triple Play Fantasy Network. I am one half of the team, Kevin Coleman. I'm joined on my podcast by co-host Jacob Dunn. Jacob, it is cut day. It is carnage day. There are things going on in the NFL community everywhere. It's an amazing day and a sad day for some out there that are getting cut. But how do you feel about today? How's it going today?
I'm doing fantastic. I mean, I'm doing victory laps right now ever since I staked my fantasy career on Mac Jones starting over Cam Newton. I mean, I am super relieved. Huge breath of just relief, and I'm super pumped for Mac Jones and the Patriots, but just that I can just continue providing fantasy analysis to you guys. I'm pumped.
Yeah, that was a great call. We're going to get into that really quick on today's show. We're going to cover these recent training camp news. Unfortunately, we're going to talk about Dobbins, my guy JK, because that happened earlier, but we got to mention it because we haven't talked about it. And then we're going to participate in the 12-team Superflex PPR mock draft. Kind of go through our stuff and just kind of look at it and from our perspectives and kind of go through the draft. But definitely going to be talking about the Cam Newton cut here. But I feel like, hey, let's get it going.
Let's do it.
Here we go. All right, so Cam Newton, Jacob, gets cut today. It was a shock a little bit, but, with the COVID information, the COVID news that happened, to be quite honest, there was something going on there, and Mac Jones looked pretty good in that last game. I like Mac. I've had him as a QB2, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. What was your initial reaction when you got the Schefter? Did you think Schefter was fake? You like, hey, is that a fake tweet? I got to check it first.
No, I mean, like I said earlier, I was pumped just because, I staked my career on this move that Mac would start. But I saw this coming too, just because Cam Newton doesn't fit Bill's style of, he wants a system quarterback. And Mac Jones is that system quarterback who will run his offense the way that Bill Belichick wants his offense to be ran. Cam Newton, I think that Bill was just over his, how he would improvise and he would do his own thing because he's not a system quarterback like Mac Jones is. So I thought it was a no-brainer, and Bill Belichick wants to win, so he will put in whoever he thinks gives him the best chance to win, and he thought that Mac Jones did that.
No, I agree with you. I did a thing back in May, and I looked at Mac Jones and I broke down everything that Belichick talked about, what he wanted, and you can check it on the YouTube channel, and I'll put it in the description if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on the podcast, check it out. And I broke down everything that he wants in a quarterback, and I looked at Mac, and Mac fits all of those categories. Good accuracy. He's a thinker. He's a level of the team.
Mm-hmm.
I think I read a report how he actually has been studying the defensive playbook for the Patriots, so he gets better in practice. That's kind of stuff that sets you apart. And that's what he does. Guys like him, is he a great athlete? No. No. He looks like me. There is a thing. He's got the dad bod already. I understand that, from that perspective. But he does the things that you have to do, the work, the extra stuff. And I think he does that because he knows he's limited. And he played with guys like Tua, Hurts, these other guys at Alabama, and he sees that level of commitment it takes. And so we always knew that the mental side was going to be okay for Mac. And I think he just showed that he was better. And Cam being out because of the weird COVID stuff that he missed, that pisses Belichick off. He's he's Belichick. Right. He's not going to like that. And if he feels like it's going to be about the same, I feel like that's how it's going to be. And I was listening to a podcast today. They were talking about it, basically about how you have to cut Cam. If you're going to go with Mac, you can't leave Cam on your roster because he's a team favorite. Everybody really loves Cam. He's a great guy. But I absolutely love this. Now for fantasy, if we're looking at it this way, I've always looked at Mac as being a QB2. I think he's a solid QB2 option. Now, is he a QB1? I don't think so because of his rushing limitation, his athleticism. Is he ever going to get in that mindset where he's going to be able to have to throw a ton? I don't know. But I think he's a very solid QB2. He's Baker, Kirk, those type of QBs. And in Superflex, I've liked him. I got lucky and I started up in February. I actually took him and Zach Wilson as my only quarterbacks in Superflex. And I've been holding still on my roster. I haven't traded for a quarterback. I almost traded for Drew Lock 2 weeks ago, but I was like, nah, I'm just going to let this thing play out. And I got lucky. But I think he can be a very solid QB2 on their roster. So I like it for fantasy purposes. Now, redraft is more your thing. Where are you at with redraft? Is he just a streamer later?
So I love this move for everyone on the Patriots offense. I am a fan of Mac Jones as a streamer in plus matchups. But as far as the running backs and the wide receivers and the tight ends go, everybody gets elevated. Like Damian Harris, he turns into a rock solid RB2, like a mid to low end RB2. Like you can draft him now in the fifth or sixth round. He's going to get that volume. And guess who's not going to steal Damian Harris's rushing touchdowns at the goal line? Cam Newton, because he's gone. Right. So Damian Harris all of a sudden has the ceiling where like a week ago, we were drafting Harris as just a high volume, going to get you some yards, like a flex play. So he is an RB2 now. And now I like even more Nelson Aguilar and Jacoby Myers. I think I like Myers a little bit more. But as far as the tight ends go, Jonnu Smith, he should now be looked at as a low-end tight end 1, if not a rock-solid tight end 1, because now he has a legitimate, accurate passer in Mac Jones, and he was handpicked by Bill Belichick to get that Aaron Hernandez role as like a halfback and as, just like he's going to manufacture touches for Jonnu. And now he has a quarterback who's not just going to tuck it and run. So I love this for Jonnu. And I know that Jonnu is your boy, Kevin. So how do you feel about this move for Jonnu Smith?
I think Damian Harris and Jonnu Smith were the two easiest picks you could have made. I don't understand why you had to make it too hard. We talked about Jonnu Smith on this podcast, and I said, when we were talking about tight ends, I'm like, you're going to target him. If you don't get to one of the first 4 guys, you target Jonnu Smith. And I can go back. I got receipts. I said it. And he was going as tight end 15, which is ridiculous. Rob Gronkowski, Irv Smith, Mike Gesicki, Tyler Higbee, Dallas Goddard, Robert Tonyan, they were all going ahead of Jonnu. And I'm like, guys, what are we doing here? Even if it was Cam, which I understand the limitations there, you're still looking at those wide receivers like Aguilar and Myers. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on. I mean, when looking at Jonnu still could have out-targeted those guys. And I know that a lot of people say they want their tight end. A legitimate tight end in fantasy should be the second target getter on the team, second guy that leads in targets. I think Jonnu could have done that before Mac. Now now we're looking at and the red zone threats and those, what he tries to do in that H-back kind of role that he can play. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love that. Damian Harris was the easiest draft pick this season. I don't understand. Sometimes we make it too hard and we get worried a little bit about the Patriots backfield. And Sony got moved, and now Damian's going to be there. So, I absolutely love those two guys. And I love that whole situation. Now, for Cam, obviously, if you had him, you probably should have sold him, or got rid of him. Sorry, I don't know if we could say sold anymore. But, you got rid of him and created more value, those type of things. You definitely should have done that. As far as, max fantasy value, I think it's about what it should be anyway. And this is why in super flex drafts, you draft the quarterbacks. And I think I talked to Jacob about that a little bit too. Mac was going in the second round of super flex drafts. That's insane value. Now you have a starter. And it's just, to me, he was an easy grab there. I saw him go at the 114 in a 16-team league and a 16-team league. Wow. I mean, to me, it's just, I think people overthought this one. Mac's going to be a fine quarterback. I think he's going to be a QB2.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right, let's go to our, sadly, let's talk about J.K. Dobbins. I like to pour one out. I'm blaming Jacob personally. I texted him, everybody out there, because he wrote a really great article for our website about how J.K. Dobbins, running back, he talked him up, and then he tore his ACL. So I'm blaming Jacob. I am doing that. Overall thoughts on J.K. before I get into it from a dynasty perspective, but just, what are you thinking about that team, that roster? Do you think maybe someone could get picked up there? What are you thinking there?
Like you said, Kevin, I touted him as a top 10 back this year. I think that the Ravens rush way too much for him not to be in the top 10. So this is such a bummer. But now Gus Edwards slides right into that role. And I don't think he's as an effective runner as JK, but he's going to get that volume to be, a mid to low end RB2. He's going to get that volume. He's going to get, I think that Gus Edwards is going to rush for 1,100 plus yards this season. And probably if the Ravens don't sign any other back, he could get 10 plus touchdowns. Yeah. I'm thinking around 8 to 10, but you know what? let's just say 10 because Gus Edwards is going to be the goal line back. He's going to be the back, like in between the 20s. He is that guy for Baltimore. So I love Gus Edwards. He is currently my RB19, but if the Ravens don't sign anyone from now until the start of the season, he could creep up into my top 15. I personally don't think that the Ravens sign anyone else because, they had their chance to sign Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, all these guys whose names have been surfacing, but they haven't, and they said that they're not going to sign those guys, at least Todd Gurley. I don't know about Bell, but you already have 3 solid backs. You have Gus Edwards that is going to lead, and then you have Justice Hill, and you have Tyson Williams. I know that both of those backs can get the job done, and Justice Hill last year had a lot of hype in the offseason. He was kind of on the borderline of making this team this year, but now with the J.K. Dobbins injury, he's definitely going to make this team along with Tyson Williams. Right now, I have Justice Hill ahead of Tyson Williams, but as of now, the coach hasn't said who's going to lead that number 2, like that number 2 spot.
Yeah.
So once we get word on that, then that running back could take the Gus Edwards role when Dobbins was the lead guy here. So whoever comes out, it needs to be a late round pick for you, whether that's Justice Hill or a Tyson Williams.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, one thing I will say, like, if you, I saw this today on social media, on Twitter, I believe, and I agree. Like, whatever you thought Dobbins is going to be, I really feel like you got to think Edwards is going to be that.
Sure.
Like, and I mean, obviously you had him a little bit higher because of the talent, but if you thought Dobbins was what he was getting drafted, like a, running back to like 15, I believe ADP was 15, running back 15. There's no reason why to think that Edwards can't be that. Like, and I touted Edwards before. I have a YouTube video, and I'm really not that good. I just get lucky sometimes when I talk about these guys. But when I said like deep targets back in June, I said Gus Edwards has to be the guy you target because I've always said he's a flex option. And I've said on this thing, and I said he's a flex option. I would take him as a flex option. He's like Kareem Hunt. And the reason why is because of these stats. From weeks 8 to 17 last year, he had 24 red zone carries, and it was 5 touchdowns. And that was with Dobbins out there.
Right.
What you're talking about. He could easily get 10 touchdowns. He could turn into that. Edwards, he has Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb, and Gus Edwards has the most yards after contact average of the last 3 seasons. Like, we're talking about a guy that's a legitimate running back in this league, and we were looking at something 60-40 now. It could be easily 70-30, right? Like, this guy can get the volume. And I understand, like, in PPR formats, because he hasn't caught the ball, and when you look at his targets, it's not there. But to me, I'm all about I said he's a standalone guy. I still think in PPR, he's going to score those touchdowns that you want to see. And he's a running back, too, that you were getting in, like, I think he was going as, like, running back 50 or 40, like, something crazy like that. Mm-hmm. Like, this is what we talk about when we say league winners. Like, this guy can easily win your league just because of the value. Now, if you went heavy running back early, now you have him as maybe he's a running back 2, but you got 3 other running back 2s and running back 1 on your team. Like, this is the type of guy that you get lucky on and you have. But to me, Edwards was always a smash grab, especially in like the Scott Fish Bowl. I have him in the Scott Fish Bowl because he was going so late. Those are the type of guys you got to grab in those type of tournaments and bigger leagues and underdog and best ball. Like, these are the things that you kind of grab. I think my ownership in best ball for Gus Edwards is like 62%.
Nice.
And I've done 34 drafts. Don't tell my wife. Don't tell my wife. But I have a ton.
Yeah. Hey, man, don't forget that the Ravens paid him this summer. They gave Gus Edwards the bag, which made a lot of people nervous to draft J.K. Dobbins because the Ravens value Edwards highly. And now he is the RB1, so he definitely needs to be at least a top 20 back for you. He needs to be taken within the first 5 rounds at least.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I think he's going to be there, and I think you take him, and you can still get him as your running back 3 with running back 2 upside. Okay, I'll take that. That's fine. I'll go running back, wide receiver now, and maybe in the second, and then maybe get a running back in the third. You can get a guy like Jacobs or something who I know you don't like as much, but then if you compare that with Gus, I think that you can kind of get some value there for that. Now, real quick before we get into our mock, the thing about J.K. Dobbins for dynasty perspective, I had someone reach out to me and ask me in a startup. He's in a startup right now, which is insane. In August 31st, you're in a startup. But he said, where would you draft these guys? So he gave me 3 options. He said Dobbins, ETN, and Akers. And so I said I would be comfortable drafting Dobbins in the 4th round of a Superflex draft right now in Dynasty. I'd be comfortable with ETN at probably like the 7th or 6th. It's depending on where you're, probably the 7th though. And I said Akers in the 10th, just because that Achilles, I don't know. There's just some things going on there. But as far as Dobbins' value, like I still think he's worth a first. I sent out I sent out a trade in a league. I have Gus, so I wasn't necessarily that worried about it. So I sent a first. And I believe what was it? I sent a first and another piece for JK, and he declined it. He said, "No, I'm going to hold on." Now that was before the ACL was confirmed, so this is me trying to sneak in there and just see kind of how I could do it.
Okay.
But you know what? I don't mind giving up a first for JK. Still, he'll be fine next year if you're rebuilding. Right. Maybe you have some extra assets. Don't give up your first if you're rebuilding, but if you have some extra assets that's there. But I will say it does suck because I love JK, and this is a hard to talk about, but I still think he has value, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm trying to as well. I'm trying to target him in a dynasty league as well, because that guy wants to contend. So I have Chase Edmonds and probably a high 2nd round pick. Do you think that's enough to prime away, or do you think that's not enough?
It could be. I don't know right now, though, right? Like it might. Chase Edmonds is a great example of a guy you maybe try to pair with a pick, and you see if you can grab him. Damian Harris, maybe if he has a great first couple games. So one of those mid-tier running back 2s that you're like, okay, I think I can ship him and try to get that. I like that. I like that strategy. And you don't have to give a first right away. That's just if you have extra assets and you feel like it's a late first. Right. And you have that. But yeah, no, I think that's great.
Love it.
All right, let's mock. Let's get into this. So, last week we did this and we talked about we went through and we kind of did our own mock, and I got to take the brand off here. And we did just a 1 quarterback. And this week what we wanted to do is we wanted to do a super flex draft PPR, and we're just going to kind of look at and see, and we picked spots. I had, Jacob picked 4th because I feel like the 4th position can be interesting in redraft super flex because where you're going to go with quarterbacks. And I took 10th to see kind of like maybe realistically, maybe you can wait on quarterbacks. We'll see how this draft plays out. So I'll let Jacob kind of go and we'll talk about it. We're going to start the draft. Obviously, it's going to be just me and him with the computer because with ADP for Sleeper. And if you watch this on YouTube, you can see it. If you listen to the podcast, we're going to try to break this down for you as slow as we can. I know the guys earlier did a full one and it was a lot of guys in there. So we kind of want to go a little slower, talk about our rationale and where you could go. So let's start this thing and then run it through. Jacob, what do you think?
All right. So right off the bat, before we got CMC as the 101, and then Josh Allen before Patrick Mahomes, and then of course Patrick Mahomes. So CMC, Allen, and Patrick Mahomes went. Now, right now, I was wanting to hammer a quarterback. I was actually hoping that Josh Allen would fall to me because for me, it's Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen at the 4 if they could possibly fall, but that's probably not going to happen. So that's why this spot is so tricky.
Yeah.
I am definitely tempted. Like, okay, so let's see which quarterbacks are available. We got Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson. Those are the 2 that I am highly debating right now. But then let's look at the running backs. We got Dalvin Cook is still there. In a super flex, I'm not going to draft for probably another like 20 picks. So this is extremely tough for me. I can pivot to the most valuable player on the board, which is Dalvin Cook to me. Or I can just get a tier 2, tier 3 quarterback. And I've been preaching that you get the best guy on the board. So I am not going to take Kyler or Jackson here. I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook and go with what I think is the best value on the board here.
Okay. Would you agree that CMC should be the 101 in redraft Superflex? Because that's not usually what it is. Usually it's either Mahomes or maybe Mahomes. But I've been seeing people say CMC in redraft is a better shot.
What's crazy? Okay, so it is neck and neck. It is a literal, just because like CMC is such a cheat code. But it's hard not to take Patrick Mahomes because he is just going to be that consistent force, and quarterbacks are going to dry up like crazy here soon. So I would actually go with Patrick Mahomes. What about you, Kevin?
I would always go quarterback. Because I think CMC is a little bit of a risk, right? I mean, I think he's the 101 in one quarterback. We talked about that last week.
Right.
But there is, there's some risk with that. Like, and I
Right.
think Mahomes and Allen have less risk at that position.
Exactly.
And with how the running backs have kind of played out, we have seen that you can grab some of these running back 2s and 3s. You can't grab a quarterback 2. Trust me, I'm a Cowboy fan. Ben DiNucci's out here just hucking things. Like you got to be careful with who you draft at that spot, right? Like you have to. But I think it's interesting kind of how the dynamics shift in redraft Superflex, which I like. I think people are playing redraft Superflex a lot as well. So there is that going on. After he took Cook, Derrick Henry went off the board. Then Kyler Murray. And then I love it, Travis Kelce went at the 107. Barkley at the 108, Kamara at the 109. And being PPR, I might have taken Kamara probably over Barkley there. So this is why I like the 110. A lot of things that you can put there. And I like that you have kind of that back-to-back kind of back-to-back pick. So on the board, you have Lamar, Jonathan Taylor, Zeke, Chubb, Tyreek Hill, and Dak. Those are kind of the guys there. For me personally, in terms of this format and what I like to see, especially with the Dobbins injury, I think it's Lamar. I'm going to go with the upside at the rushing position. I think, even last year, I mean, he's projected right now at 375 points. Now, whether that is what it is. But I'm going to take Lamar here just to have that quarterback, that solid QB option. And then I know I'm going to inevitably get one of those next 5 guys there, either position, player. I'm hoping maybe Chubb falls to me in that area. So I'm taking a little bit of a shot here. But I'm going to take Lamar.
Lamar is a fantastic pick because I almost took him with my 4th pick just because with the J.K. Dobbins injury and with all the injuries to all the wideouts, I think that Lamar is going to run like crazy. Like he to me is just a lock for 1,000+ yards, which is, we all know, a cheat code in fantasy football. So I love that pick, Kevin.
Yeah, now it hurts me though, because I was expecting one of these running backs to fall to me, but after Lamar, I went Taylor, Chubb, Jones, and Elliott.
Oh, all of them.
All of them went. And so now you're looking at the board, and what are you going to do in terms of when you're looking at that board, you got to, now it's PPR. So you're looking at that, so for me, if you look at the quarterback still there, I could take just a second quarterback and go, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, especially in redraft. Now, if this was Dynasty, like I've talked about, you might want to take a quarterback like Justin Herbert or Dak Prescott in this situation, because then I can just fill out my running backs later. I'm not that worried about it. But in terms of this, you really got to grab one of those position players, especially in redraft. I believe the best running back on the board is Austin Eckler, who I think is going to be a great PPR kind of guy. And as you kind of look through there, you go through the ADP where everybody's at: Najee Harris, Antonio Gibson, Joe Mixon. So I like that. Wide receiver, you got Tyreek Hill, Adams, and Diggs, and Hopkins. Those are kind of the top 4 guys there that I like. And in tight end, I could always go Kittle or Waller and have that positional advantage. This isn't tight end premium, so I'm going to kind of stay away from that. I'm drafting Tyreek Hill, Jacob. I'm going to go off the board a little bit. I'm going to take Lamar, and I'm going to take Tyreek here in PPR and get some high upside guys with these 2 guys.
So to you saw that Tyreek Hill was probably the best value.
Yeah.
Why do you like Hill over Adams? Adams in Green Bay. Sorry.
I necessarily, to me, they're very close, but Hill's my wide receiver 1. I just stick to my rankings on this one. So I like the fact that he's paired with Mahomes. I don't see them as having a legitimate wide receiver 2, which I know Green Bay struggles there too, but I do think that they're going to have some guys there. Randall Cobb, they move the ball around a little bit more than what we'd like to see. I just think Hill's going to get the targets. And when you look at his targets, I believe he's led the league in targets the last 5 years. I believe, I have to look at the stats while you're picking your next pick. But just based on his targets, what he's looked at, his target share, give me Hill in redraft, because I think he has top 3 potential.
I love that pick. That's a great pick. I would personally take Adams over Hill, but that's just me. Like you said, they are very close. And you probably can't go wrong with either. So after your pick of Hill, it went Russell Wilson, Devontae Adams, Dak Prescott, Hopkins, and Najee Harris. And with my pick, here are the best players available at quarterback. It's Justin Herbert and Aaron Rodgers. So I am very tempted here to take Justin Herbert, but let's see who is at running back. We got Eckler and Antonio Gibson. And then at wide receiver, we got Stephon Diggs and DK Metcalf and Ridley. So I have some excellent choices here, but since I took Cook with my first pick, and Justin Herbert fell, because there is a tier break here. It's Herbert and Rodgers, and then there's a tier break when it goes to Burrow, Brady, Stafford, and Jalen Hurts. So I am going to go ahead and lock in Justin Herbert here because I think he is very safe. And since I didn't take a quarterback in the first round, and, I like Eckler and Gibson for sure. But in a super flex, I need to lock up that stone cold quarterback one here, and that is Justin Herbert for me. So I'm going to go Herbert.
In my opinion, real quick, sorry, you have to take a quarter. Now, it's going to be interesting team one because they don't take a quarterback. But I feel like you have to grab at least one quarterback in the first 2 rounds. And it's super flex. Even in redraft. Like, you have to.
Right. Yeah. That is exactly how I felt as well. Like, I wanted to pick Gibson there, but I need a quarterback or else it's going to dry up extremely quick. Yeah. So after Herbert went Kittle, Diggs, Gibson, and Ridley at the turn. So, like you said, team one doesn't have a quarterback, but they are stacking up. They got CMC and Gibson and Ridley. That is a fire start if they can get some solid quarterbacks later. And then DK and Eckler. I was hoping that Eckler or Antonio Gibson would fall back to me. But now, I had Dalvin Cook and Herbert. I'm looking at the quarterbacks, and Aaron Rodgers is still there, and that is extremely tempting to me. The running backs, we got Joe Mixon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and DeAndre Swift. Clyde and Swift are tempting to me, but Swift's groin injury is scaring me a little bit, Kevin, just a little bit. And since we are drafting right now, I'm going to pass Swift just because of the injury concern. The wide receivers that are here are Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, and Terry. So I'm going to skip out on the wideouts just because I think I can find value later. I am going to lock up my quarterback 2, which is not a bad quarterback 2 here. I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers here. What do you think of that pick, Kevin?
I liked it. I thought you maybe go Waller, who went right after you. Maybe lock up that tight end, that top tight end with Cook and Herbert with upside. Right. But I didn't hate it. The thing is, like, I mentioned this on Twitter. I think it was like a week ago. I actually drafting out of the 101 in redraft and in Superflex this year because of the options at the end. So if you look at that 101 team on the screen, or if you're listening, they had McCaffrey, and then they turn around and they had Gibson, Ridley, Metcalf, Eckler, Rodgers, Waller, Justin Jefferson. Like, there's so many options how you could pair that. And I love that they got Ridley. So, like, if you're drafting at the 101 spot, I think you have, like, kind of an advantage. I like the way you can build a team. As far as your team goes, you have to lock up that second quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see where it comes around. But I do like that you're waiting on wide receiver. Like, I usually would too. Yeah. I win Hill, as we know, but we'll see if it comes back to bite me in the ass. Now, we got Waller, Jefferson, Montgomery, Edwards, and Mixon. So that's how the board shook out. For me, this is an easy pick, but I'm a truther. So I'm taking DeAndre Swift as my running back 1 on my team.
Okay, so you are not worried about that groin injury.
Not worried about it. Worried about it. From everything that I heard, in terms of, like, I've looked it up on Swift. After he came out, those reports that he had the groin, everything was going on there. It seems like that was kind of just talk. The beat reporter said he scored touchdowns and he looks fine. But anyway, this is redraft, and this is also like, hey, I'm going to take a shot. You might lose the first 2 weeks. Okay, give me that, give me Swift, especially let's say he does sit out a game. Yeah. I'll take this talent over, like, the tier break is what gets me. Am I taking him? Josh, I need to get a running back here. Josh Jacobs, Chris Carson, Miles Sanders, Darrell Henderson, Kareem Hunt. Does anything there, like, pop out at you? Like, yeah, I should probably grab that guy.
No, it's definitely Swift.
And A.J. Brown's still on the board and Kyle Pitts, but to me, that's too early in terms of. I wouldn't hate A.J. if I had taken a running back, and maybe he's there. But I'm gonna take Swift. I'm on brand, baby. This is my pick here. And then after Swift, it goes Robinson, Burrow, McLaurin, and Brown. And this is what you're gonna see a lot of. I'm going to tell everybody out there, the 3rd and 4th round are just filled with wide receivers. So if you're waiting, so Jacob's waiting right now for a wide receiver. Yep. His options are going to diminish when we start seeing these guys because they're going to go off the board. They really are. Now, Superflex might have some quarterbacks thrown in here. So now, to me, it's kind of up to me to see where I want to go here. And I do think, when you look at the board, I have Lamar and Hill and Swift on my team. And then when you look at, who's best, Kyle Pitts is there, but I'm staying away from Kyle Pitts this year. I know everybody loves him, but to me, that's still a little too high for his ADP.
Yeah.
Brady, Stafford, Hurts is there. Keenan Allen, who I really like, especially in PPR.
Yeah.
I love my guy CD Lamb.
That's right.
But you know what? I'm swinging, and I love the swing. You know me. I'm taking our boy Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
At quarterback.
Dude, you have Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, probably the top 2 rushing quarterbacks this season. I mean, that is a fire stack, dude. I love that.
I'm going for it. To me,
it.
when you're looking at these teams, like you got to separate yourself, especially in redraft. If you get those 2 guys, you get the upside of the rushing floor. Yes, and as long as your league doesn't care about completion percentage, I'm fine, right? Like I'm all right here. But I like that upside. I'm not a Hurts guy, you know that. Like I'm not like a guy that like does that. But if you look at the 2 options after that, Stafford and then Brady's on the clock too. Mm-hmm. They're not giving you any of that upside at that position for rushing. I mean, I think it's like 33 yards rushing Stafford's had in the last like 5 years. I saw some stats, some crazy stat recently. So give me Hurts. I'll take that. And I think I like the way my team's shaping out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then after you went Keenan Allen, Kyle Pitts, Josh Jacobs, CD Lamb, who I was really hoping would fall to me, and then Matthew Stafford. So right now I have a running back and 2 quarterbacks. So I know that running backs dry up extremely quick and the wide receivers might as well, but I'm looking at these top tier wideouts and I'm not in love with it. I'm not in love with Mike Evans. I like Chris Godwin, but not this early as my wide receiver 1. I do like Amari Cooper here a lot. I would think about taking him. Mark Andrews is still on the board, who I think is going to get a lot of touches here with all of the Ravens wideout injuries. But I think it's just a little bit too early to take that tier of tight end. So it's either Amari Cooper or Chris Carson for me. I think that Chris Carson is the safest running back available right now. To pair with Cook, I have that upside with Cook and then that floor with Carson. So I think I'm going to gamble here because and I'm going to take Chris Carson, who is a top rated running back here, and see if Cooper falls to me at the next pick. So I'm going to go with Chris Carson, lock up my 2 backs, and Cooper goes right after Carson. Great. Yeah. And then we go Jamar Chase, which is insane reach. Yeah. And then Brady, Miles Sanders, Mike Evans, and DJ Moore. So like you said, Kevin, wide receivers, we are on a run here. So they are drying up quick, which I regret a little bit, but I do like that I locked down my RB2, my consistent safe floor guy in Carson. So let's see what's available at wideout. We still got Chris Godwin there, who I think is going to have a bounce back year this year. I think that he can produce wide receiver 1 numbers. But let's see who's at tight end. We still got Mark Andrews. And I always say that the 5th round now, Mark Andrews is a solid pick because he's going to get all this volume with all of the injuries, like I said earlier. It's hard though, because I don't want to pass up on a wideout and then my wide receiver 1 be, let's go down the list. It be like T Higgins or like a Brandon Ayuk. Like I want them to be my wide receiver 2. So I'm stalling here for sure because like I'm tilting. But I think I am just going to go with my gut, a very safe pick here in Chris Godwin, lock up my wide receiver 1, and just hope he balls out in Brady's second year in that Bruce Arians system. I think that Bucs offense is going to be legit. And I actually like Godwin over Mike Evans just for the weekly consistency factor. So I'm going to go Chris Godwin here and lock up my wide receiver. And then after Godwin went Myles Gaskin, Darrell Henderson, Adam Thielen, Ryan Tannehill, and Julio Jones. And it's your pick, Kevin.
Yes, it is. Man. So now, I mean, I'm interested to see this board. I really like what Team 1's doing. So if you're listening, they're the team that didn't have a quarterback. And then after Ridley, they got Tom Brady. So now they have Tom Brady and then Miles Sanders. I like that room. That's what I'm talking about, the 101. Like, I really wish I would have chosen that to draft from. But I like that. I like that ability that you have. I do agree with you on Chase. I think Chase is getting overdrafted. He's got that Justin Jefferson bump, and it's still there. Now, I will say the drops and everything has kind of pushed it down just a little bit for the most part. But I do agree with you there. I like the Godwin as your wide receiver 1. That's okay. Like, I think that's a very safe, kind of
Yeah.
there. Did you think at all of Deontay Johnson? I see Deontay down there. You think of Deontay at all?
I thought about him for a second, but I wanted my wide receiver 1 to just be tied to a quarterback that I believe in. I believe in Tom Brady and Bruce Arians' system. I believe in Big Ben to an extent, but his arm, he looked awful towards the end of the season. So I'm kind of fading all the Steelers wide receivers, except for Chase Claypool. I think that he's going to get screens. I think that he's going to be a monster this year. But Deontay's a safe pick, but not over Godwin for me. But I still think he is a safe wide receiver 2.
Okay, yeah. So, when you're looking at my roster, like I said, I got 2 quarterbacks. I got Hill and Swift. For me, it's either wide receiver. I could think of tight end. Andrews is still there, and Hawkinson's still there. 2 guys that I'm really Hawkinson's ADP is a little weird to me, but once we start getting the 5th and 6th round, I don't mind taking Hawkinson, to be honest. Like, with that target share, what he's probably going to get, that's okay, depending on how your roster is built. Running backs, there's just that tier for me. Like, you got Kareem Hunt on the board still, Mike Davis, Javonte Williams. I think James Robinson could be a good option in this point.
Absolutely.
I really like that fact, but I just keep going back, and you have Robert Woods and Deontay on the board. And to me, it's between Robert Woods and Deontay, and I just can't get away from my boy Deontay, Jacob. I just can't do it. I love him. I love his PPR. Yeah. I think as my wide receiver 2, especially in this format. So I'm going to reach a little bit according to ADP, but I don't care about ADP. I'm taking Deontay.
So I like that pick, Kevin. I personally would pick Cooper Kupp over both of them.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that? Are you not as high on Cooper Kupp?
I'm just indifferent. Like, I think we know what Cooper Kupp is. Sure. I think he can be, but I don't know what Stafford's going to look like with Cooper. I don't know what Stafford's going to look like with Robert Woods. So we can't use like historical projections based on that. Like, we knew what they were. And in Cooper, I feel like Deontay is actually going to be I think he's going to have a safer floor. Like, I really do. Like, I'm pulling your move right now. Like, I really think that I think Deontay's going to have more. I think Deontay will have more targets than Cooper Kupp, to be honest with you. Like, I think that. So to me, I'm just going to go with him. But I could grab him now, right? Like, so after that, it went Lawrence, Andrews, Hunt, and Hawkinson. I really wanted Hawkinson, to be honest with everybody out there. So I was kind of, but hey, that happens. Like, when you got to pivot a little bit. And to me, after that, I'm not taking Noah Fant in the 6th, as much as I know you and me both love Noah Fant. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to look at running back. And when I look at running back, I just, Mike Davis is there. I'm out on that. Javonte with Melvin Gordon as my running back 2. That's just too much risk for me.
Sure.
So to me, it's between James Robinson and Chase Edmonds. And in PPR, you tend to think of like, hey, can Chase Edmonds be that guy? But I just cannot not take Robinson here based on what he did last year, the kind of the volume that he's going to see with ETN being gone. So I do say, like, Carlos Hyde being there. I think he got almost as many snaps as James Robinson the other night.
Right.
He's going to cut into some of his role. So I think that people thinking Robinson going to be a running back 1 type season again, I don't think that's the case. They're going to have more of a passing volume. You're going to see that with Lawrence. And Urban Meyer's a pain in the ass. But I feel like at this point in the draft, when you're looking at that running back position, I think there's just too much upside there with Robinson.
Carlos Hyde is going to split touches for sure, but Robinson dominated the touches last game. So it's still Robinson's backfield to dominate, and Hyde is still there as like a leader, as like, as just like to block and stuff like that. I think that it's still Robinson's backfield, and that is a great pick in the 6th round.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. I'm just here to make good picks and to have it. Now, I think he's a solid running back too, right? Like, I think, and I think that's the value that he is right now. After that went Robert Woods, which, valid pick right there. I like that pick. Javonte went a little early for me. He went to 605, Kupp 606, Lockett to 607. Those 3 guys are going back to back to back. Like, in drafts, you're going to have to really choose what you like there. And then Mike Davis went to the 608, and I think, I'm out on Davis. I don't know how you feel about Davis, but I'm not touching Davis this year.
Not a Davis guy whatsoever. I am not drafting him. I am not touching him unless he's in like the 10th round, which he won't be. So he won't be on any of my teams.
So all right, where are you going with this? You can go anywhere. You got all kinds of options right now.
I'm bummed though because I hoping that Cooper or Lockett would fall to me just because I need that wide receiver to have Godwin, but very safe he would fall to me. Unfortunately, he didn't. And now we're looking at just that tier break, like with Kenny Golladay. He's struggling with a hamstring injury. I'm not touching him. And then we got Michael Thomas. I'm not touching him either until like the 10th round. I'm not going to take that risk. Then we got Ayuk, who is also dealing with a hamstring injury, and like he would be an auto pick for me right here. He's still in consideration, but I'm going to see who else is there. We got T. Higgins and Chase Claypool. So Ayuk would be the best wideout to take here, in my opinion. We look at tight end. Yes, we do like Fant, but this is just way too early. And then there's just a list of tight ends who are just all the same, like Goddard and Jasicki, Logan Thomas, Robert Tonyan. These are all guys that we can wait on because even later we got Tyler Higbee, who's going to be great, and we got Rob Gronk, who is being underrated in my opinion. And then we got the flyer tight ends that we can take later. So we do have 2 flexes, and the running backs that are available are Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Trey Sermon, who I like, but I still think it's too early on those guys. And Gus Edwards is still on the board. I might go for him next round because he's still bogged down in ADP. So if you draft right now, guys, make that your advantage if no one is thinking about Edwards because he's still down in the ranks in your league, whether that's Yahoo, ESPN, Sleeper, use that. Like, I am not going to draft Edwards here, but I might next round. So wide receiver, I am going to go with Ayuk, even though he has a slight hamstring injury. I think they're just playing it safe. So Ayuk as my upside wide receiver 2 to pair with Godwin. I like it. And then next went Michael Thomas, and then Chase Edmonds, Kenny Golladay, T. Higgins, Noah Fant, and Odell Beckham Jr. So sniped. This is exactly what I wanted to do. I am going to go for Gus Edwards here because the next available running backs, Melvin Gordon, Mostert, Ronald Jones, Trey Sermon, Damian Harris. That is actually a really good pick too. But I like Gus Edwards a lot more. So I'm going to go with Gus Edwards here over Damian Harris, but Harris would also be an excellent pick here.
So OBJ went, I saw someone touting OBJ as like, no, you're out on OBJ.
No, it's, I will never draft him again.
Okay. That's fair.
I believed in a comeback last year, and I even endorsed him to my best friend who was drafting in his draft right next to me. I said, he's going to have a bounce back year. So he not only burned me, but he burned my best friend. So he is on my never list, Kevin.
Okay, that's fine. What do you think of, so Javonte went at 605 and then Gordon went at 707. Yeah. What do you think? I don't think that's, I have a hard time drafting Williams a round ahead of Gordon.
I mean, it looks like he was a full 2 rounds ahead of him, which is insane value for Gordon, I would say. Now I do think I've been saying all summer, Javonte's going to take over soon, but we don't know exactly when. I think it's going to be week 6, but hey, Melvin Gordon, he looked good in that last preseason game. So getting him in the 7th round, that's extreme value, Kevin.
Yeah, no, I think that's great value. And that's Team 7's running back 3. I think that's really good in terms of where you're at. Now, after he took Edwards, it went Sutton, Devonta Smith, Gordon, Jones, and Claypool. So on the board, and for me, I don't need to focus on quarterback. That's one of the reasons why I kind of took it, early. Tight ends, not yet. I'm waiting.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for my guys down there. Wide receivers. So on the board, you got Chark, Judy, Juju, Debo, Robbie, Jalen Waddle, LaVisca still down there. So you still got some guys there that you're looking at maybe drafting. Running backs, you got Raheem Mostert, who, if he stays healthy, could be a legitimate option in that offense, especially in that San Francisco attack. You have Trey Sermon, you got Damian Harris. But we talked about this recently. I'm taking Damian Harris. You were talking about Damian Harris there. Yep. I'm going to take Damian Harris as my running back 3 to pair with Robinson and Swift.
Yeah, there was no way that Damian Harris was getting back to me just because he is such a value right now. So that's a great pick.
And then, man, wide receivers off the board again. We got DJ, Judy, Juju, and Robbie Anderson gets taken. And that's a lot of receivers there. And that's a lot of, a lot of talent that went up that board. And when you're looking at the receiver tiers, like as you look at this, so like I'm going to be taking, I really wanted to I actually wanted either Judy or Chark maybe to fall to me. But obviously they went right back to back. And there's a clear tier break. So when you're looking at this, and we're kind of looking over like just the tiers where you're looking at, with Debo being there, I like Debo. And then you have Waddle, LaVisca. I'm not as high on LaVisca as some people in the community. I wish people loved me as much as they love LaVisca and fantasy Twitter. But, as far as, the board, what it looks like, everything there, I'm actually going to go Brandon Cooks. I know that Houston offense is not, everybody's kind of touting that. I do think Tyrod Taylor is he's not a terrible quarterback option. Like he's to me, Tyrod is Teddy Bridgewater. Like, they have very similar, career arc. Just, I feel like Teddy's got a little bit more, opportunity to start, do those type of things. But for me, I'm going to go Brandon Cooks a little bit off the board. I'm going to take that. And what do you think about Brandon Cooks? Should I take Debo? Because Debo would have been the guy I probably should have gone. But I just feel like Brandon's going to be the number one option on that team.
Right. I'm going Samuel there, but Cooks is not a bad option at all. Like you said, just pure volume. He's going to get over 1,000 yards, maybe even 1,100 yards. I don't know where his touchdowns will be, like anywhere between like 3 and 6 probably, but you have that safe guy and he's your wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
And we're only starting 2 wideouts, so that, like he can be used in your flex spot. I would go Samuel, but Samuel is a little risky with his injury history, so I get that. Going with the safer guy there, Kevin.
Going safer guy, yes, kind of. I got to mix it up a little bit. After that, it went Waddle, Mostert, Boyd, and Shenault. So LaVisca went right before you. Where are you going to go?
Oh, Debo went right after you, and I was really hoping that he would fall.
Debo's gone. That's not happening.
Right, shoot. Okay, so, I mean, I have Dalvin Cook and Chris Carson. Then I have Justin Herbert and Aaron Rodgers. I have Chris Godwin and Brandon Ayuk. So it's a little bit of a suspect wide receiver room, but I think I have a very high floor there mixed with a high ceiling with Ayuk. And then Gus Edwards as a solid flex RB3. So let's look over at the tight ends. I don't have one yet, and there's still not anyone that I really want. We got Goddard, Gesicki, Thomas, Tunyon, like maybe Tunyon since Rodgers is there. But I'm still going to look at the best available wide receiver and running back. Trey Sermon is still there. I know that I have 3 RBs right now, but, we have 2 flex spots here. And I think that Sermon, even if he splits the backfield the whole season, I still think that he's going to provide viable flex numbers, and he can take it to the house, and he is probably going to be the red zone guy. Whereas Raheem Mostert, as long as he's healthy, which is a big if, he's going to be like the in-between the 20s guy, and Sermon's going to be the red zone guy. So I think that Sermon has touchdown upside. And when you look at the running backs after him, we got Michael Carter, Leonard Fournette, Zach Moss, David Johnson, James Conner, all these guys that I am not touching with a 39.5-foot pole, whatever that Grinch song goes. So I'm going to draft Trey Sermon as my RB4 just because, I'm going to see who is available to me once it comes to my turn at wide out. Because we got Antonio Brown, which would be nice. And then we got Curtis Samuel, who has a nice floor. Jarvis Landry, who also has a high floor. So we'll see who comes back around. But I'm going to go ahead and take Trey Sermon.
I still think, whoever gets Sermon or Mostert, so whoever gets that and wins that one, like whoever actually has that better year, I think your team has to make the playoffs. Like it should make the playoffs because that's just in the 8th round, you're going to get the running back 1 on San Francisco. So whichever one gets that one right, you're taking a risk on either side. It's very unlikely both these guys stay healthy. Right. So whoever gets hurt, this is where luck plays a role. Like there is some luck into this in the drafts. And like you said, the running back, that's a dead zone. You got Michael Carter, Zach Moss coming next. I'm out. Tunyon, Fuller, David Johnson, I'm definitely out on. Leonard Fournette, I don't want any of those guys on my roster. So Sermon was the right pick there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Now, I will say this. I just wanted to say this in Superflex. So we're in the 9th round, and there's a few teams that don't have a second quarterback. So the guys that have Allen and Mahomes and Brady, they're waiting. And I don't necessarily know if this would happen in a mock it does, but I don't know, maybe in yours. But just to put everybody's perspective, in the 9th round, here's the quarterbacks that are left: Matt Ryan, Mayfield, Cousins, Fields, Tua, Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, Ryan Fitzpatrick. So there's some guys out here that I think have some kind of QB2 upside. So if they were to fall that low, that'd be great. But you got to be careful because those quarterback runs will come quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So since I do have my 2 quarterbacks, I don't have to look that way yet for my backup. Even though I really like that Justin Fields is still there because I think that he'll start right away. But I can still wait probably a round or 2 for him. I don't know. We'll see. In a Superflex league, anything goes. So I am good on running back. I got 4 RBs within the first 8 rounds. So I need a wideout because I have Godwin and Ayuk and no one else. The only tight end I would have taken is Robert Tonyan. He was taken 4 picks before me. So I'm going to go wideout. The best available is Antonio Brown, Curtis Samuel, Jarvis Landry, Michael Pittman. And then we go down the list. There's no one that's really hiding that I would take here. I know we got your boy Darnell Mooney, but I need someone a little bit safer at this point as my wide receiver 3. I want to take Antonio Brown, but I have Godwin. I would almost be like Antonio Brown would almost be the insurance policy to Godwin. I don't want to do that. I don't want to start 2 Bucks wideouts each week. So I'm going to go with a guy who I think has a very high floor because he's going to get rushing attempts on top of just screens. I think that Curtis Samuel is a very safe pick here. It was between him and Jarvis Landry, really, because Jarvis Landry just has a very safe floor. But in a half PPR, I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel here just for his rushing upside, just giving him that high floor.
Now the quarterback's coming off. So
huge quarterback run, Kevin. That's crazy. So
that's what's going to happen in Superflex. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because if you wait for quarterbacks, so now the teams that have Allen and Mahomes and Brady, we literally just had Mayfield, Ryan, Cousins, Fitzpatrick, and Fields come off the board. So now what you're looking at, and again, if you look over here, Team 11 also has only 1 quarterback. So I would be very hard pressed to see they own. Now you're looking at Tua, Trey, Carson Wentz, Daniel Jones, Darnold, Zach Wilson, Derek Carr, and Roethlisberger, which aren't bad options, but now you're really starting to see kind of that clear drop. So if you draft early and you're in the 8th or 9th, and I know people are still drafting, and we still got a lot of drafts happening this weekend, you might want to consider maybe not taking Zach Moss and maybe taking Kirk Cousins or a guy like that, or Fields, like guys like that you can kind of put in there. Now I'm on the board here, and when you're looking at it, I don't want Dallas Goddard. I won't take a tight end here. Nope. Running back wise, James Conner, I can't believe he's still in the league. You just looking at kind of the running back options. When I look at PPR formats, like Hines, and I always tend to go towards him, and Phillip Lindsay are still there. But for me, this is a wide receiver pick. Antonio's still there. I think this is an easy pick. I'm gonna take Antonio Brown. And he'll be my 4th wide receiver option. I like him in that offense. This is a little too early for me to take some of these other guys. I do have a question for you because Mike Williams is on the board, so I might as well throw it out at you. Whatever. Who cares how much time this is taking? I had a question today. Someone asked me, would you rather have in PPR formats Mike Williams or Jacoby Myers?
Oh, I'd rather have Mike Williams all day, just because so Mac Jones kind of evens that a little bit, but Mike Williams is tied to an up-and-coming quarterback who is a gunslinger. To me, right now, Mac Jones is a system quarterback who is going to do exactly what Bill tells him to do. So I'm not sure if there's going to be a ton of upside in that offense. I think there's a lot of safe floors. Like I said, every single Patriot gets elevated as far as fantasy value. But I'm gonna go with Mike Williams, who is tied to Justin Herbert there. I would take Mike Williams over Myers all day. How about you?
So I'm a Mike Williams guy. I really do think that Mike's going to have it. I told him Myers in PPR.
Okay.
But because Williams is hurt again, damn it. And then also I do see Myers getting a ton of. I think he's going to get a ton of targets. You saw it in the preseason with what he's able to do in that offense in the slot. He's maneuverable. He's versatile. They're going to use him in a lot of different ways. I think they're going to manufacture touches to him in the receiving game. Like he's going to get a lot of bubble screens. He's going to get a lot of over the middle crossing routes. So like I think it's close. Like don't get me wrong. And I know we're talking about this. I know ADP is not close, but to me, I think that's a mistake. I do think Jacoby. I understand now. I could look like an idiot because if Mike Williams has the year that I hope he has, because I have him on a lot of my teams, like if he does break out, then you're like, wow, why would you take that? It's just there's a lot of negatives about Mike, and him not being able to be healthy again. It's like, damn it, Mike Williams, just be healthy. But for me, I'm going to take Antonio Brown in this mindset. Dallas Goddard goes next. Tua goes next. Okay, and then we got Deshaun out there because people still think Deshaun's going to play. Like I said, he's there. So I'm back on the clock. And, when you look at tight ends, Logan's there, Tyler Higbee, Rob Gronkowski, Irv Smith, Hunter Henry, all of that. To me, when I'm looking at just the board and where you're at in terms of runs. So for me, I don't need a running back. I feel like I have 3 solid options at running back right now. And I can grab like a PPR guy later. Wide receiver, I could grab Mike Williams here. I could grab Darnell Mooney, who I like.
Right.
Corey Davis is a wide receiver 1 option, and he is there. But I know that I'm not probably going to get this guy on the way back, so I'm drafting Jonnu Smith as my tight end 1. I like him more than Higbee. I like him more than Rob. I like him more than Irv and Hunter. Irv's out. Hunter Henry's questionable still. Evan Ingram just went out with an injury.
Right.
I do like Logan, but I do think Jonnu could be the leading second. Like I said, the second target leader. I don't think he'd come back to me. And so I'm going to take Jonnu here. And I know it's a little bit of a reach, but I'm okay with it.
I like that pick a lot, Kevin. If like you go get your guy if you want him, because he probably wouldn't last back to you, because like we see right here, there was a tight end run. So I just got sniped with my top 2 tight end picks that I would have picked here. I would have picked either Higbee or Gronk. They got sniped. So I don't think that there would have been a viable tight end option for you if it had come back. So it's a great pick.
Got to play the board. You got to watch the board. You just got to watch it. All right, where are you going with this one?
All right, so after your Smith pick went Pittman, Logan Thomas, Tyler Higbee, Gronk, and A.J. Dillon. So I'm looking at the tight end board. I'm not loving what I'm seeing now, unfortunately. So, we got Irv Smith, like you said, Hunter Henry, who's questionable, Evan Ingram, Jared Cook, Adam Troutman, Cole Kmet. Oh, man, it's just like it's drying up quick. So that right now, that's going to be a position that I stream, because I just don't want to spend that type of capital when I could pick Trey Lance here, who is the stone cold pick for me right here. He's going to be my quarterback 3. I can wait for him. I think that he'll start sometime early in the season, whether that be the injury or just the 49ers want a change of scenery. I think that he'll start at the latest week 7. So I'm going to go Trey Lance here as my quarterback 3.
Nice.
Just for that upside. I love it. Yeah. And then right after me went a quarterback run of Carson Wentz, Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold. So Trey Lance probably have made it back to me.
No. But I like that upside with the 3rd pick, because this is your 3rd guy. Like those other guys now, like, when you're looking at Allen and Mahomes are now paired with Wentz and Wilson. There's some clear issues with that. Like you got to be very careful. I think I like Wilson a little bit more than Wentz in this format, right? Like I feel a little bit more comfortable with him, but that's still a QB2. Like you got to, and then Darnold with Brady. Like I like Darnold, but you got to understand that him having your QB2, it does limit your ceiling a little bit.
Absolutely. Right. Yes. And so after those went Irv Smith, James Conner, and Jarvis Landry. So I am still hurting a little bit at wide receiver. I only have 3, but I think I'm doing okay because I can start 2 flexes with Gus and Trey Sermon. I'm looking at the wideouts, and there's some decent options here. We got Mike Williams. We got Corey Davis, who got a bunch of targets from Zach Wilson the last time that they started together. And then we got Michael Gallup and Darnell Mooney. I really like Gallup a lot in what I know is going to be just a passing attack offense there with Dak and Lamb and Cooper. But do I want the 3rd wideout on a pass-heavy team, or do I want the number 1 target in New York being my 4th wide receiver? It's a tough call, but I think I'm going to go with the number 1 target with Zach Wilson because I liked what I saw from them in the last game. And so I'm going to go with that upside. I think that Corey Davis has a shot at 1,000 yards himself and 5 to 6 touchdowns. So I'm going to go Corey Davis here as my 4th wide receiver. What do you think of that pick, Kevin?
I love Corey Davis. I love him in this format, and I think that fits your team really well. I think if you can get Corey Davis in the 11th to 12th round, that's a steal. I think that's a very good, because I think he's going to lead that team in targets.
Right.
And I think he's going to be. I know Elijah's there. I know some other guys are there. But Mims, I'm out. They have
Same.
that. I just think in redraft it's not going to be there. So I like that pick. I think that I might have went Mooney, but that's just because I like Mooney's upside. Right. But you can't, Corey Davis being a wide receiver 1, you can't step away from that in redraft. Then it went Marquise Brown, Drake, Gallup, Mooney, Hunter Henry went. So realistically, I don't know if I would have got Jonnu, to be honest with you, based on how that played out there. So I might have got a little lucky there. To me, when I'm looking at the board, I'm really thinking about a backup quarterback here. I really like Derek Carr in this format, and as my 3rd quarterback, that would be really good. But what I'm going to do is I am going to draft, and looking at what I have 3 running backs only. If you look at the running backs right now, Singletary, Hines there. I'm still not in love with those options. I'm just not in love with it. Look at wide receiver. It's hard for me to pass Mike Williams at this point because I feel like he's just dropping.
I agree.
And so I'm going to take Mike.
I like it.
After Mike, it went Singletary, Hines, Pollard, and Hardman. And, stop drafting McCole Hardman, even the computers. Now, just stop it. Now this is where you really got to pay attention as a team. And I know we're going to wrap it up here pretty quick. But I have 2 quarterbacks in this roster right now. You really need a 3rd quarterback in Superflex formats. I don't care what people think, but I only have 3 running backs as well. So I'm going to take a hit here. I'm either going to take a hit at the running back position or the quarterback position. But like I talked about pre-show or in the show, I got to practice what I preach. And if you really need that quarterback position, you don't want to reach, after these guys, these options here. I'm going to take Derek Carr, and I'm going to use him. Okay. I think he's a good format in this format. I'm not taking Daniel Jones. The only other guy I maybe would take is Roethlisberger. I know Jameis is there as well. He's intriguing, but there's no option behind Derek Carr. There's an option behind Jameis, and we know that Taysom Hill is there. So I feel like I'm going to take Carr just to be the safe 3rd quarterback in this format. And then I'm going to have, we'll have Jacob draft one more guy, and then we're going to go to the basically defenses. We'll let it kind of auto pick, and we'll talk about our teams.
Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and take a safe tight end here, which Jared Cook is one of my sleeper picks here. I'm going to go with Jared Cook just with that safe floor, that red zone target for Justin Herbert. I'm going to go Jared Cook, and then probably if this were my real draft, I would go with an upside tight end later, like Cole Kmet, Adam Troutman, Gerald Everett. I would just go with that upside, or even Blake Jarwin. But I'll go with someone safe with Jared Cook, and then we'll just let it auto until we get to the last few rounds, like you said, Kevin.
Yeah, no, I think it's good there. You just got to click the auto on your thing, but I like this. Okay. I for Superflex, I think the things that I'm talking about that I want to make sure you got Troutman anyway.
There you go. I got Troutman anyway. Love it.
And you got to kind of run through things. Like for me, if you got to make sure you get that 3rd quarterback by I think the 12th round. Like I really feel like you got to really get in there and get that 3rd quarterback in this format because it's season long. These things happen, especially if you got a high risky pick. Like I have Hurts. Realistically, Hurts could get, there's some chances. You got Gardner Minshew there. There's some question marks about what you're going to do there. Sure. Like, get a solid, safe option, and then you can stream these other ones, especially if it's only 15 or 16 rounds. Like, when you look at the board, who is still there, of course, I don't know if I can look at it now, but when you look at the board after that, like, when you're looking at just like, hey, there are some still solid streamers, the wide receiver position, the running back position. There's guys that you can kind of add. You cannot add those quarterbacks that are there. And as far as I go, I like this team. I like how this team played out. When you look at my roster, I got Lamar, DeAndre, James Robinson, Hill, Deontay, Jonnu, Damian Harris, Brandon Cooks as my starters. Jalen Hurts will be on there as well. And then you have like Antonio Brown, Mike Williams, Derek Carr. I wouldn't have taken T.Y., but he's on there. So I like how that played out. But for me, like when you're looking at just how it goes, I think you got to grab 2 quarterbacks within the first 4 rounds. That's kind of my opinion in Superflex. Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you there. And I'm excited for my team as well. I like that I took Dalvin Cook with my first pick because now I have that stone cold RB because of what happened later. I got Herbert and Rodgers in the 2nd and 3rd. Those are 2 fantastic quarterback options. And then followed by Chris Carson, Chris Godwin, Brandon Ayuk, Gus Edwards, Trey Sermon, Curtis Samuel, and then Trey Lance in the 10th.
and then Corey Davis in the 11th. So I like how my team shaped up. The only regret I have is probably not taking Amari Cooper over Chris Carson in the 4th, but I know that Chris Carson wouldn't have fallen to me, but so I am okay with that as long as Brandon Ayuk is healthy and he's ready to go, because I do like that I got Corey Davis later, who's going to be a high floor, safe wide receiver 3 option for me on my bench. So I like how my team shaped up. I liked how your team shaped up. Like you said, Kevin, I can't stress that more. Take a quarterback, or take your 2 quarterbacks in the first 4 rounds, or wait until round 8 or 9 to take Justin Fields or Trey Lance. But then you're gambling that they're going to start quickly and they're not guaranteed. So grab those two quarterback ones in the first 4 rounds and just lock it and forget it.
Yeah, and the only guys that I maybe like, I would, if you're gonna go high upside, that's fine. I'm comfortable with Mayfield and Cousins as like a QB2 if you can get them in the 9th or 10th. Like you got to be in the 9th or 10th. If you're reaching a little higher than that, then I'm a little bit worried in that. But just to go back to your thing real quick, if you would have took Cooper, Carson and Sanders might have gone off the board. The thing is, like, are you comfortable with like a Gaskin or James Robinson as your running back 1?
James Robinson, I am warming up to as like a low end RB1, RB2. Okay. So I would have been okay with it. But seeing how it ended up, I might have taken Cooper there because I know that he is a stone cold wide receiver 1. I would have been feeling better about my team having Cooper and James Robinson over Chris Carson and Chris Godwin. I'm not hating it. I like it because Chris Carson is going to be better in fantasy than James Robinson, in my opinion. He's safer and a better offense. But you can't go wrong with either of those options, Kevin.
All right. Well, hey, we appreciate you guys tuning in and talking to us about this and going over it. Next week we have real football coming up, and we're going to be talking about, I don't know if you guys know, but Jacob is an incredible start sits guy. Like, if I ever have ask and I ask advice and any of that kind of stuff, like he's my guy there. Tons of advice for him. I have to ask him there. So we'll have that segment. We're going to have some waivers, waiver wire ads, or just looking at waivers coming up, where we see from news and all of that. So anything else to say before we go, Jacob?
We're going to have streamers as well for all of you in the 1 quarterback league. So look out for that. I mean, I'm excited for the season, Kevin. We got 9 days until kickoff. 9 days, man. I can't wait. And I know that we both got all of our fantasy leagues coming, and you guys have it too. So we really hope that this helps. And don't forget to take the best value on the board.
Take the best value on the board. And hey, like we said, next week, every week, we're going to look at it from a redraft and dynasty perspective. So I will give you dynasty takes every week. Like, hey, panic meter. What should we do with this guy? How are you looking? Should we sell this guy? Don't trade a first for Travis freaking Fulgham. I wish I had the show last week or last year. I would have told you because he just got cut today. Like, there are things that I want to try to make sure you understand before you get screwed in your leagues, especially your dynasty leagues and in redraft and streamers. So that's what we're here for. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time, we'll check you guys later.